Looking at Israel this morning, you can hardly tell the country just faced an unprecedented attack from Iran. Israelis bounced back quickly. But what happened this weekend could have easily triggered a massive war. And it's not off the table. What saved Israel and stopped a wider war were air defenses and extensive American help. Around 2 a.m. Sunday morning, we watched as more than 300 Iranian missiles and drones were heading for Israel. Its air defense system lighting up the sky over Jerusalem.
For the last several minutes, we've seen these flares streaking all across the skies over Jerusalem. And now, for the first time, we're hearing the air raid sirens.
It was a striking juxtaposition. Modern weapons over the ancient city. Sites holy to billions of Jews, Christians, and Muslims could have easily been damaged or destroyed. Also threatened, the nearby Christian town of Bethlehem. Visiting American Cardinal Dolan forced to take shelter. In the end, there was almost no damage, as Israel, the U.S., and other allies shot down 99% of Iran's missiles and drones, most of them before they even entered Israeli airspace. President Biden praising American troops involved.
I swear to God, you're incredible.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Keep it going. Stay safe, man.
In Iran, they celebrated the nation's first direct attack against Israel. Retaliation for an Israeli airstrike 2 weeks ago on the Iranian embassy compound in Damascus that killed 7 members of Iran's Revolutionary Guard. But Iran could have made its attack more difficult to stop, sending its slow-flying drones in waves all the way from Iran, effectively giving Israel hours of advance warning.
Israel's security cabinet meets again today, but so far Israeli officials are staying vague about any potential response, saying only that Israel will respond to this Iranian attack at a time and place of its choosing. Savannah.
Richard, thank you very much. And joining us now is National Security Council spokesman Admiral John Kirby. John, good morning to you.
Good morning. Thank you.
This was a massive attack inside Israel, the first ever direct attack on Israel from Iranian soil. Is it your expectation that Israel will be retaliating? The War Cabinet is meeting as we speak.
I think that's going to be up to the War Cabinet and Prime Minister Netanyahu to decide. We certainly wouldn't get ahead of any decisions that they might make. President, in his conversation with Prime Minister Netanyahu, lauded the amazing success that they had in shooting down the vast majority of the missiles and drones that were fired at them. I mean, very few impacts, no casualties. It was an incredible military achievement. And he urged Prime Minister Netanyahu to consider the impact of that great success and what that meant, the message it sent, not only about Israel's military superiority, but about the fact that Iran had utterly failed in what they tried to do.
Well, let's just be as blunt as possible. It is essentially what the White House is saying to Israel as has been reported, take the win, not to retaliate. Is that the U.S. position? Israel, don't retaliate?
Again, the president made it clear to Prime Minister Netanyahu that there was much to be proud of the other night in terms of the military success. The president has also been very clear in multiple venues that we do not seek a war with Iran. We don't want to see a wider war in the region.
Well, as we all know, this strike from Iran was in retaliation for a strike that Israel took against Iranian forces in Syria that killed 7 IRGC officers. The Israelis gave no heads up to its ally, the U.S. Was that needlessly provocative? Do you think that Israel bears some responsibility for escalating this and getting us to this point?
Well, look, let's be clear here. Iran has been funding, resourcing groups like Hamas, Hezbollah, the Houthis down in Yemen, all of which also, with the exception of Hamas, these proxy groups, including those in Iraq and Syria, also participated in these strikes against Israel on Israeli soil. Iran is the one who is providing the means and the resources through which these groups in their own military was able to conduct this unprecedented attack on Israel.
So, I mean, given that, and given what the White House is signaling about its messaging to the Israelis, I mean, I just want to go back to the point here. Is the White House saying in between the lines essentially to Israel, don't retaliate now? I mean, the Iranians have claimed that they have concluded their response to the Syria attack. So is it the U.S. position that if Israel sits tight, this can end right now?
Well, we want to see de-escalation clearly in the region, and everything the president has done since October 7th has been designed to keep this from becoming a wider war, Savannah. And that's why we're going to keep lashed up with our Israeli counterparts. That's why we're going to make it clear again to the Israelis. We'll do what we have to do to defend them, help them in their self-defense. But we don't want to see a wider war. We don't want to see this escalate. We certainly are not looking for a war with Iran.
On the other hand, if Israel does not retaliate, some say if the U.S. doesn't respond directly, then Iran will simply be emboldened. And here you're getting it from both sides. Senator John Fetterman said he disagrees with the president seeming to rule out any U.S. response against Iran. And Congressman Dan Crenshaw said, when you diminish deterrence, the enemy feels emboldened to strike.
I think what we showed the other night in concert with partners and, of course, the Israelis is that Iran is not militarily superior, that Iran is not 10 feet tall, and that we will act, that Israel is not alone. We will act with them in their self-defense. I don't know how you can look at the incredible military achievements the other night and come away with any other idea that the United States, that President Biden is not going to stand by our good friend and ally Israel as they defend themselves.
But we would be having a much different conversation had we not had that incredible, as you mentioned, ability to repel 99% of these missiles and drones that were coming toward Israel. Does Netanyahu's actions in the region make the U.S. nervous?
I think we are concerned about tensions rising all throughout the region, Savannah. And again, everything that the president has been doing in adding resources and the diplomacy in holding Iran accountable has been designed to try to de-escalate those tensions. Look, I'm not going to make a political statement from here. Prime Minister Netanyahu is the elected prime minister for the state of Israel, and he's got a war cabinet that he's administering. We're not going to agree with everything that he and that war cabinet want to do. That's been clear for the last 6 months, and I suspect that will happen again in the future. But we are clear, and we do agree on the need for Israel to exist as a state, to be able to live in safety and security in a very, very tough neighborhood, and in our commitment to helping them defend themselves.
The president has had a previous conversation with Netanyahu that was quite tense, where he called for a ceasefire in Gaza, called for more humanitarian assistance, called for the release of hostages. How does the weekend's events affect those negotiations that are ongoing for the release of hostages in exchange for a ceasefire?
Well, I don't know that there's active negotiations going on right now. As you know, about a week or so ago, there were a set of discussions in Cairo. CIA Director Bill Burns represented the United States at those meetings, and a proposal was arrived at in Cairo a week or so ago, agreed to by the Israelis. Now it's at Hamas's doorstep. They need to take that deal. They need to move forward on it. It's the best chance we've got right now to get those hostages home, to get a 6-week ceasefire in place, and to get more humanitarian assistance in. The ball's in Hamas's court.
A lot going on a busy, busy morning. Thank you for your time, National Security Spokesman John Kirby. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Hey, thanks for watching. Don't miss the Today Show every weekday at 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 Pacific on our streaming channel, Today All Day. To watch, head to today.com/allday or click the link right here.